Jose, I think we are live. Looks like we're live. If you can see us, I can see some comments. Just let us know. Let's check here. Das ist interessant. There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Looks like we're live. Can you see us? We can see ourselves on the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us? Let's just get some confirmation. If anyone watching can just give us a thumbs up. And then we'll start in a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it
looks like we're live.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get going. I'll give some introduction before we start with the conversation. And thank you for this confirmation. And okay. I think we're up and running. Thank you. Yes, we'd like to give you guys some feedback on where we are and what we are doing, what we have been doing, and what is the little bit that's still ahead of us. For tonight at least, before we head back to South Africa. So let me start by saying that firstly welcoming Ernst van Zyl, who's with me on this stream, or Conscious Caracal, as many of you know him, who follow him on social media. We will be giving you a quick overview of what we've been doing, but let me first say that we also recorded a stream about a week ago on Ernst's channel. On YouTube, there's a link in the description to that channel where we spoke especially about what we observed at the NatCon conference, the National Conservatism Conference. We're going to be talking about a little bit of that without repeating too much of what we discussed in the earlier video. Let's thank you for everyone who's tuning in. Let me just also, while we're waiting for some people to sign up and sign in, firstly, sorry for starting a bit late. I'm using new software on my computer, and we had to figure out how to get it up and running. But we are happy to speak with you. So, yeah, let me say something about the Afrikaner Foundation, just to get the conversation up and running. Again, there was a video. I've done a video about this earlier, but for those that don't know, I'll give you the short version, which is that the Afrikaner Foundation is a new institution that was founded by the Solidarity Movement. It's the newest institution within the Solidarity Movement, with the goal of promoting international cooperation and obtaining international support for the work that we are doing through our various institutions. So the Solidarity Movement is a network of more than 50 institutions, including Solidarity, the Christian Trade Union, AfriForum, the Civil Rights Group, and the Community Organizing Group, the Solidarity Helping Hand, the Federation of Afrikaans Cultural Organizations, the FRK, Academia, Soltech, Marula Media, and there are many others. Canton, that does property development, the Orania Development Company. And so we're actually very proud of the fact that all of the fundraising we've done to date was internally. It was crowdfunding. Many of you are members of these institutions I've mentioned. And a great example is, of course, the Soltech campus. The Soltech campus was finished a few years ago during COVID time. It was built or finished before the deadline and under budget. And it was in US dollars terms about the equivalent of about $11 million to build. And again, if you express it in dollar terms, the single biggest donation that we had received for the Soltech campus was 50 cents in US dollar terms. And the way we've done that was to simply crowdfund hundreds of thousands of people to ask them to make 10 Rand donations for several years. And so we know, if you live in South Africa or if you are up to date with South Africa, you would know that there are a lot of problems in South Africa, and that the South African government, the deterioration of South Africa is escalating, which is why the work that we are doing to ensure a future for our community has to escalate as well. And so the Afrikaner Foundation will be a vehicle for this, to increase cooperation with institutions abroad cooperation with the various institutions of the Solidarity Movement, but also to enable our friends abroad to either donate or to become a member and make a smaller monthly contribution. Now, of course, we have purchasing power parity, which means that you can work with exchange rates, but more or less, if you buy 2 cappuccinos here in New York, that's about the equivalent of what it would cost you to buy a proper piece of steak in South Africa. So someone abroad or someone in the US giving us $10 or $20, that seems like a small donation for that person, but in actual fact, it's a big donation for us. And so there's a link in the description on how people can support the Afrikaner Foundation, which will then channel support to the various institutions. But that's enough about that. Let's get the conversation up and running. I see someone is saying the sound is very low. Let me see if I can increase it over here. I'm sure the sound would be a bit better now. There you go.
Yeah, let's see from the...
Yeah, let's take it from here. If the sound is still too low, I can lift it as well. It seems on my side almost to be clipping. But thank you for that. All right, let's get the conversation going. So we've been here for, I don't know, 2 weeks. And we wanted to squeeze in as much as we possibly could. Here's a message.
Much better now, says Emery.
Oh, great. Thank you. We wanted to squeeze in as much as we possibly could for these 2 weeks. And we came for 2 main events. The first one was the first event during the trip, and the other one is the one that happens tonight. So the first main event was the National Conservatism Conference, which is hosted by the Edmund Burke Foundation. It's an international conference about conservative ideas, attended by people from all over the world. And we were very happy that they invited us to speak at this conference about what's happening in South Africa and what the Afrikaner people are doing through our various institutions that I just mentioned. And many people at this conference have been saying to us that they believe South Africa is way ahead of the curve. Firstly, in terms of the type of problems that we experienced, in the sense that many other countries will still experience these problems. But then secondly, and perhaps more importantly, in terms of the solutions that we are developing for these problems through our various institutions and through what you might describe as our return to communities. But we'll get to the conference and NatCon now. The other big thing is happening tonight, and we're very excited about that, which is the launch of the Afrikaner Foundation in America. It's the American launch of the Afrikaner Foundation, and there's an event in New York hosted by the New York Young Republicans. If you've been following us on social media, you might have seen the ads for this. There will be 3 speakers. Myself, Jack Posobiec will be a speaker, and Rahim Kassan will also be a speaker at this event. It's a pretty big venue. We've been told that they had to move it to a bigger venue because there's so much interest in the event, and we've also been told that it will also be filmed, so there would not be a live stream. You wouldn't be able to watch, but it's going to be, I don't know, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning back in South Africa. But there will be a video available. So we'll get to that now. But let's go to NatCon. And Ernst, perhaps you can give us we've discussed some of this on your channel, but for the sake of our viewers here, what was the biggest and most important observations that you've made?
Well, at NatCon, I think the thing that stood out the most was the fact that I'm not exaggerating when I say we were swarmed by people with comments and questions. People that really, when they heard there are 2 Afrikaners there at the conference, that was even before Ernst did his presentation, so it was just word of mouth, people hearing through through conversation that there's 2 South Africans, 2 Afrikaners there, and they wanted to come talk to us. So when they found us, they came ready with their questions. And their questions, I see there's in the chat, Imri asks, do you find that people are more interested in the solutions or the problems themselves? So yes, that's a very good question. So the vast majority of questions that we had and in-depth conversations that we had were with people that had questions about the solutions. So they were asking us about our neighborhood, AfriForum's Neighborhood Watch Network, the Solidarity Movement, Sol Tech, the technical college, academia, the private university, Also, the private university campus was some great news that we could tell them about. The fact that we are planning to build a big university campus, also the new school that we're building. So we just had this long list of good news from what we're building, and that good news seems to have preceded us. So people weren't hearing a lot of this for the first time. A lot of them even knew about things like Saltex's campus or Urania or AfriForum's community-based solutions, and they wanted to know more. So it wasn't just a scenario of people telling us they know nothing and we should enlighten them. They actually already had some of the basics under their belt, and they wanted to know more, a bit more of the details. How can they help? How can they support us? So that was already, I think, Adams, it would be fair to say that we were a bit blown away, our expectations were completely exceeded. When it came to the reaction that we got. We thought there might be a bit more interest, but not as much as we've received. And the interest has very clearly shifted, to get back to your question, Emery, a very, very clear shift from people wanting to know about the problems to people wanting to know about the solutions. And that's happened in the span of a few years.
Yeah, well, let me just make a quick administrative or logistical announcement. I see we've got a few people watching and the comments are coming in quite quickly. You might have seen that we have monetized this channel, and the channel is linked to the bank account of the Afrikaner Foundation. It's not linked to my bank account. So the idea is to use this channel and also the channel of the Afrikaner Foundation. There's a new channel. We'd like for you to subscribe there. To use this channel for more conversations like these, and also where people can, through which people can donate, and then the money would go to the projects of the Solidarity Movement, including the building of Academia's campus, new campus, including the building of new Christian Afrikaans schools, the development of Urania, bursaries and rent-free loans for students who cannot afford it, who have been excluded as a result of racial discrimination and so forth. So I'm still very new on this, and we're sitting here in America. I believe that there's a super chat function on the chat. So if some of you have tried it, you can just give us some feedback on the comments, and we'll see if it works. And maybe there's something else that we still need to set up. If it's not set up properly yet, we will get that going. But yes, I do. It was very interesting. Thinking about this conference and comparing it to 10 years ago or just 5 years ago. Our experience up to 10 years ago was that people didn't know. A lot of people, even at conferences like these, when you talk about South Africa, they would think that you are talking about a region. They would then say, which country? You say South Africa, and then they would say, yes, but which country? Like East Africa or North Africa. And if you talk about them, they weren't interested, or they were just interested in this Mandela dream, the idea that South Africa is just one big miracle story. And then a few years ago, that started changing when people started realizing, hearing news about expropriation without compensation, the farm murders, load shedding, and these type of things. And so we've started to notice that people became interested in what's happening. They would say things like, I've not been hearing good things about South Africa. And earlier this year at CPAC, I noticed for the first time that the focus was shifting towards solutions and an interest in how do we respond to this. And it's very interesting how well known an organization like AfriForum is abroad, how well known the Solidarity Movement is, and also Urania. People are especially interested in Urania. And so this is something that we need to focus on much. But it was really bizarre, almost bizarre, and I'm truly not exaggerating when I say that at this conference there were times when it was difficult for us to navigate the coffee breaks, because there were so many people who were interested, not in us as individuals, but in the work that we are involved with and what's happening in South Africa and what are we doing. And so we had fascinating conversations, not about load shedding and why is load shedding a problem, but what are we doing about load shedding, and not about affirmative action and black empowerment and how we are discriminated against, but what are we doing under these circumstances. Not about the high murder rate in South Africa and the crime situation, but how are we responding to this through community safety networks. And so
And also, why are we so hopeful? Why are we so
Yeah,
positive
and
on
this
the
was
future?
a major difference between what we've experienced in the past and what we experienced at this conference, and also what a major difference between our outlook or prospect and our friends internationally, especially in Europe, in America, that many of our friends on this side of the Atlantic or this side of the equator are very downtrodden, very much in despair, very frustrated, very pessimistic, and perhaps for good reason. While in many ways what's happening in South Africa is much worse, but we, probably not everyone in South Africa, but I think a lot of people, and at least the Afrikaner people, are actually quite optimistic. And it was something that we noticed and that our friends also noticed, saying to us, but why are you guys so optimistic? And I think it's because we have rediscovered this truth that the only sustainable way forward is through community institutions, through building institutions through the community, not demanding compensation from the government, not asking the government to fix your problem, but just obviously the government has a role to play, but just going out and fixing your problems yourself, doing something about it yourself. And this is something that we believe is a big difference. Is this how you see it?
Yes, and I think this also comes from a place where in a lot of Western countries in particular, but also in South Africa, people are just getting tired of political parties and politicians making promises and nothing changing. Even if there's an election and there's a changing of the party at the top, a lot of things don't change. The status quo stays the same and no results are produced. And I think that's where our message and our story as Afrikaners and as the solidarity movement is so powerful, is that we actually produce the results, and there's a lot of hope for the future to be gained from that. People are so tired of broken promises, so tired of, for example, parties like the EFF saying they'll build a school and just give them 5 years, and then 5 years later there's another excuse. Well, the solidarity movement promises a school and then we build it. The solidarity movement promises a safety network and then we build it. The solidarity movement promises solutions for the future and then we provide them in the real world where people can actually benefit from them. And I think that difference between the world of just ideas and promises and the world of actually turning your promises and your ideas into reality, that's definitely what is capturing the imagination of a lot of people here. And Adams, I think you just got your first donation there.
Thank you to the Burn. This is actually, I think, the first donation that we have received through this channel. So I was wondering, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at some of the comments on my phone to see if it's up and running. So thank you very much. It says, no questions. I just want to thank you for traveling and for representing us abroad. Hopefully this can get you a coffee.
Well, this is going directly into the Afrikaner Foundation Fund for the future.
Yes, so thank you. That's probably the amount that you would have to pay for a coffee in America. So thank you, much appreciated. We're trying to keep an eye out for some of the comments while we're going. There was a comment by, I think Marie-Louise has answered, by Andre Brits, who mentioned being in, there we go. Ek is 'n recruiter hier in UAE met 'n groot netwerk. Reik uit na my op Twitter asseblief sodat ek fondse kan insamel die kant. So it's someone in the United Arab Emirates asking, wanting to recruit people, and they asked how can they help. So just quickly though, there's a way on the website. If you go to afrikaner.org/support, where there, if you go to this page, you can either make a donation, or you can sign up for a monthly contribution, or you can sign up as a recruiter. And to be a recruiter, we don't have call centers. We don't have we need to accelerate our income stream. So we have decided to compensate people who are willing to sign up as recruiters based on the recruitment that you are doing. So we do have that option. If there's any uncertainty about this, I think this person, just provide us with your Twitter handle, and Marie-Louise Denason, she's with part of the team. Thank you for helping us, Marie-Louise, with this trip from South Africa. We'll reach out to you, or you can send an email to info@afrikaner.org, or you can contact us through the website, and we will be able to help you with that. Someone said, hello, off topic, maar did we see Pennywell's new video, the land issue? I'm not sure exactly what Rania one. Or...
No, seems to be a very new one. I think you uploaded it yesterday. No, we're not really keeping up to date with what's happening in South Africa at the moment. Our focus is 100% here in the US. So I'll probably be giving that a look when we get back.
But what we can say, maybe you can elaborate a bit on this. This has been a very busy week, I'm sure you would know, in America, not only in terms of what we've been doing, but in terms of American politics. So maybe give the viewers an overview. What's been happening in America?
I don't know exactly what has happened specifically since, I can't remember exactly from last time we spoke. So last time was the 13th of July. But I mean, just since being here in the US this past 2 weeks, so many things have happened. There was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. There was the resignation of Joe Biden from the presidential race. And today the resignation of the resignation of the head of the Secret Service. I don't know, what else am I missing?
So much. It was I think, how did it start?
It starts with the debate. The very bizarre debate between
the Trump-Biden debate was just, I think, as we arrived here. The assassination attempt. I think before the assassination attempt was the announcement of J.D. Vance, who we saw at NatCon as the vice president. Trump, the assassination attempt, the Republican National Convention took place. Now we've had Joe Biden stepping down, Kamala Harris becoming the new Democratic nominee, and there's just so much happening, and so the atmosphere is very there's some excitement in the atmosphere politically, and I think it's a good time for us, even though there's a lot happening in America. I got feedback yesterday from the New York Young Republicans Club. They had, I think they call it the Board of Governors, a meeting yesterday, and they just sent me a text from the meeting saying that they are very excited. There's big excitement all around, I think is what they said, about the event tonight, and that the ticket sales have done pretty well. So we're happy about that. I do see as a comment by Hendrik van Eden, that's actually a good and a very important question. The question is, why do you automatically think all Afrikaners that support AfriForum values and political views are in line with the Republican Party in the US? Well, the answer is we don't. And I think the underlying issue that is raised with this question is something that's really important that we need to talk about. It's something that we've been talking about very much internally, and it's worth sharing with you, and perhaps we'd like to hear your views on this, is who do we speak to and who shouldn't we speak to? Now, it's not our goal or purpose to be a role player in American politics or European politics. We might comment on some of these things and as far as it's relevant to us, but our focus is to ensure a future for us in South Africa.
And we're also not a political party ourselves.
Yes, exactly. So we wouldn't endorse candidates or endorse political parties or anything to that effect. In previous trips, not in this trip, we didn't really meet many politicians other than this event that's coming up tonight. In previous trips, we have met with Democrats and Republicans, with people on the left and on the right. We've even once had a meeting with the staff of a very left-wing politician, in a very well-known left-wing politician in America, but the underlying question for us is, how much should we agree or disagree with someone before we speak with him? And the answer is that we are willing to speak with anyone. And speaking with someone or speaking at an event doesn't necessarily mean that we are a part of this party or that we support this party or this movement. We have our own focus. But what I could say is that there's a lot that we agree on with, at least with what the New York Young Republicans are doing. I'm sure if we sit down and we go through policy issues, we have already seen nuanced differences, and we've discussed this with many of our friends. But we are willing to speak with anyone abroad who are interested in us. And if we speak at an event of the Republican Party, for example, that does not mean that there's no point in us calling on people to vote for a Republican candidate. That's just too far outside of the sphere of what we're doing. But that means it's a good opportunity for us to raise awareness. And if we are invited to speak at an event of the Democratic Party, we would certainly do that as well. There are issues that we believe, that we feel strongly about, that resonates with Republican voters in America. And there might be perhaps fewer, but there might be issues that could resonate with Democratic voters, the issue of minority rights and these type of things. But we are willing to speak with anyone. So speaking with the Republican Party doesn't mean, obviously we don't think everyone who's a member are supporters of everything that's happening within the Republican Party or Donald Trump.
Right, and it's also just a simple issue of who gives us a platform, who wants to talk about South Africa, who wants, for example, Afrikaners to tell their audience or their supporters about what we're doing. If anyone, as Ernst has said, anyone across the political spectrum can invite us or reach out to us to appear in their publication, to write for their publication, or to do a presentation at one of their events. But I don't think it's a mystery as to why most of our opportunities come from the Republican sphere here in the US, because there's a strong Christian element there. There's a strong cultural overlap in regards to our social values. Our movement, the Solidarity movement, has a strong conservative bedrock to it. I mean, that's no secret. We're not a movement that doesn't have solid principles that we stand on. So I think it's no mystery or strange why the majority of opportunities are from the right side of the spectrum, if you can put it that way. But at the same time, if the opportunity arises to talk to anyone from all across the spectrum, we will utilize that opportunity that will in the best way that will benefit our supporters and Afrikaners in South Africa.
Well, let me say thank you very much to Stephanie. Stephanie gave us 1,400 rands for the Afrikaner Foundation and for the work that we're doing. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. We really appreciate that. Let me just add to this, and I think this is important to say as well. And again, we'd like to get your views on this. Is how do we position ourselves internationally? And the fact of the matter is that we are a Christian organization, a Christian movement, and we are Westerners. And I've seen that some people have regarded it as controversial when we describe ourselves as Westerners. And when we say that, we say we are part of Western civilization. We sprout from Western civilization with its origins in Athens, Rome, and Jerusalem. And we regard Western history, the history of Western civilization, as part of our history. And when we say that, we don't mean that we are Europeans or that our home is in Europe. So there's some nuance in this conversation, which is that on a civilizational level, we regard ourselves as Westerners, but we are inextricably linked to the African continent. And I've mentioned this at NatCon. I'm going to say this tonight, and Ernst has been saying this to our friends over here, that Africa is part of our identity. We have no intention of leaving Africa. But there's an international struggle currently in the world where there's an attack on Western civilization. There's a very clear, and you might even say coordinated, international attack on anything that resembles Western civilization, on the philosophical truths that were discovered by the Greeks, on the political system and the justice systems that was discovered by or developed by the Romans, and especially on Christianity and the Christian conception of virtue and what it means to live a good life. And so there is what you might describe as an international conservative movement that have been developing over the last 10 years, especially.
It was a particular point of focus at NatCon, talking about the international networking between conservative organizations.
Yes, exactly. And we have made a deliberate choice to play a more active role in the international conservative movement because we are conservative. And when we say we are conservative, we mean that there are some things that are important to us that we wish to conserve. We wish to conserve these things that I've mentioned, these ideas originating from these three cities, but we also wish to conserve our own tradition, our very particular culture and heritage that we have developed as the Afrikaner people. And there are many people internationally who are also interested in this in different countries all over the world, not just Western countries. And each of them have their own distinct focus, their own distinct approach, and they have different organizations, and these different organizations would have different policy ideas. And there would probably be not a single one with which, if we really sit down and go through the detail, we wouldn't find some issue on which we disagree. But we're not Puritans in that sense of the word. We believe if there's enough on which we agree, we should work together. And so we are very proud to be associated with the New York Young Republicans. And we are very grateful. We were very grateful last year when they were one of the first institutions to issue a press statement after the chant of Julius Malema chanting kill the Boer, kill the farmer at an EFF rally. When that became news, the New York Young Republicans issued a press statement. I think the press statement was entitled Save the Boer. And it spoke about why the Afrikaner people ought to be respected and why the international community ought to take a stronger stance against these type of things happening in South Africa.
Yeah, and we've made a lot of progress in gaining friends all across the world. The Afrikaners have friends all across the globe. We have organizations in Hungary. We have organizations in South Tyrol that are explicitly friends of the Afrikaners. Not just we agree on some principles, they outright state we are allies and friends of the Afrikaners. We have such organizations, we've met them here in the US. As Ernst just said, the New York Young Republicans are an organization that are friends of the Afrikaners. Another thing that we've also seen, I mean, you mentioned Kill the Boer now. There was a press statement from Slovakia last year as well, condemning chants like Kill the Boer from a youth party there. So there are many, many friends of the Afrikaners all across the world. And in a globalized world, no people or person, or specifically no people, can be an island. You need friends. You're going to need friends to survive and to thrive. So that's part of the focus here. And just to a final thought there on the African and Western question, it is at the end of the day a more philosophical question. It's not just a gut feeling. Their words and concepts have certain meanings, and you can't just change them when it is politically expedient. So the Afrikaner culture particularly has a very nuanced character and a very complex identity. It is both African and Western at the same time. Now, if you're in the world of party politics and in the world of slogans and sloganeering, that's not the type of message you'd want to send. You just choose one of those labels and then you completely embrace it for simplicity reasons and just to make it less complicated and more digestible for people. But that would not be the truth. It would be a simplification, but a simplification to the point where it's a half-truth, and a half-truth is also a lie. So we at AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement and the Afrikaner Foundation, our point is that we are not going to shy away from the complexities of our identity. We're going to state them as they are, even if it is not politically expedient. And the reality is, as MP van Wyk said, that we as Afrikaners have to keep both our heritages close to our heart, our Western heritage and our African heritage. And we can't separate ourselves from either of those two. To ignore either one would be not just a betrayal, but it would not be the truth. It would be a fabrication. It would be a twisting of reality.
Yeah, and the world as a result of technology become much smaller in the sense that it's easier to reach out to people, and it's easier to cooperate with people. And it's easier to do business internationally. And the viewers, you guys would have seen this and know this, that it's becoming increasingly easier to sit anywhere in the world and do business with anyone else in the world, depending, of course, on what business you are doing. Now, there come some risks with this, such as globalism, which is an ideology, other than globalization. And globalism, the ideology, is this idea that we're all just one people and we need to destroy the particular to embrace the universal, to put it in some philosophical terms. But the great thing about the situation we currently are in is it's becoming increasingly easier for us to make friends abroad. And for people abroad who are taking note of what is happening in South Africa and what we are doing, to be involved. So we are speaking with groups from all over the world who are interested in arranging fact-finding missions to South Africa, coming to South Africa or going to South Africa to make documentary films about what is happening there, to go and drive patrol with AfriForum, to visit Saltec, to visit the Voortrekker Monument, to interview some politicians. And so we can play a very important role in this regard. And in this sense, it's very important for us to strengthen our friendships abroad. And something I mentioned at NatCon is that it's actually emotional for us in the sense that as Afrikaners, we've felt like the pariahs of the world for several decades after the 80s and the 90s, that we were rejected by much of the West, who, especially North America and Western Europe, who have decided that they don't want anything to do with the Afrikaner people. And we believe that is changing now. It's like a pendulum that has swung one way and is now gone up to as far as it could, and it's now starting to swing back. And I'm obviously not referring to everyone. I'm not referring to the ordinary person you would meet if you walk down the street. I'm not talking about governments necessarily, although some governments are much more interested than others. But we are experiencing this, that people have locked us out of their frame of reference for a few decades, and they are now discovering, but listen, there's something really interesting happening in South Africa, and what we've been taught about South Africa is not true. And we need to look at what is happening in South Africa. And so this is something that's really encouraging to us. I want to say thank you to Graham. Graham gave us $10, which is almost 2 cappuccinos. But again, as I said, it's a steak in South Africa. So thank you very much. Graham said, have you been to any of the states in the deep south, like Mississippi? I think you will find that you have much more in common with American Southerners in the Bible Belt than those up north. So not enough, no. We have had, Kali Kriel and I had a visit to Texas, especially Dallas. I'm not sure if that counts according to what you described there, and we have had some meetings there, and we actually have many friends who are in the American South. Most of our liaison has been in Washington, actually, for obvious reasons, but we do believe that it's very important to get to the other states, and especially the South. I know that many Afrikaners who immigrate to America go to the South, go to the cattle ranches or work on the farms, some up in the North, Michigan and so forth as well, but especially in the South. And we believe, I know that there's a potjiekos competitie in Texas, so it is something that we need to do. We can't get to everyone as soon as we would like, but the question depends also on the opportunities. So if we have enough friends in the South who are willing to arrange perhaps an event for us, or some fundraiser, or an event to speak with think tanks and researchers and journalists and politicians in the South, we would certainly do that. Or if we are able to arrange an event with the diaspora, people who have left South Africa or are interested in preserving the good that could be preserved, we would definitely do that. So thank you for that, Graham.
Ernst, I see there's a comment or a question regarding there from Peter, and I think what's relevant to his question regarding squatter camps in South Africa is the fact that the work that Help in the Hunt has been doing. I mean, you've been talking about as one of the institutions in the solidarity movement that we've actually been talking quite a lot about to people here that want to help out and support us.
Yes, so there's a documentary that I believe has just been published or will be published very shortly in France. A French team who came to South Africa to do a story about the Afrikaners and the solidarity movement and Orania, but with a particular focus on white poverty, to use that term. And yes, this is certainly one of the aspects of the Afrikaner Foundation that we are going to do fundraising for. So Solidarity Helping Hand has spent millions to date giving loan-free rental bursaries or rent-free bursaries to students who have been excluded. And it's actually a wonderful concept. So the concept, more or less, is if you cannot afford it, and if you've been excluded by government policies and so forth, you can apply. It will be a rent-free loan, rather, which you can then use to fund your studies. And once you're finished, you obviously pay back without interest or without rent. But the great thing about that is that then once you have finished and you pay back, you give the opportunity for a next student to do that. So providing a donation in this regard is not just helping one student, it's helping dozens of students in effect. But we will be talking about this on this channel. Actually, just the last few days we were talking about some follow-up interviews, and we're going to speak with the Solidarity Helping Hand and with the other institutions as well about this project. This is a very important thing that we are busy with.
And the concept that Help in the Hunt or Solidarity Helping Hand is built on is in diametric in opposition to the ANC's approach. So it's not just a handing out of money, it's not just a hand out, it is a hand up. So it is here we can help you with the tools to escape your impoverished situation, but it is you have to do your part as well. You are you have a responsibility then as well. It's not just money being handed out. That's a form of dependency, and we are absolutely opposed to creating just a dependent class of people that just are dependent on handouts of money. That's why there's that strong focus on education. So Solidariteit, helping hand, make sure that children have school lunches, for example. They make sure that they get the opportunity for bursaries, as Ernst explained. So it's a new approach to social upliftment and welfare that's actually sustainable and positive, rather than one that creates just a new form of dependency.
It's that old metaphor of giving someone a fishing rod as opposed to a fish. Now, there are some cases where people need urgent relief, and there are such projects as well. And there are many churches and organizations who are helping with soup kitchens and things like that. But a major focus of the Solidarity movement, and especially the Solidarity Helping Hand, is education and training, and getting people who come from such backgrounds into the system, so to speak, by helping them to get proper training so that they can get a job and they can start to generate income for their family. So this is a very strong focus. We're going to start concluding. Maybe just 1 or 2 minutes. If there are some last questions, you can ask them, or comments. You can let us know and we'll respond to them. Maybe just a few quick remarks about what lies ahead. So this is actually our last day. We have the big event with the New York Young Republicans tonight, and then tomorrow we are heading back to South Africa for that long journey back. And so tonight's event is pretty big. Again, if you missed the first part, there will be 3 speakers, myself, Jack Posobiec, who I'm sure many of you know, and Rahim Kassam, that's it, who's from England, actually. So the joke is that an American, an Englishman, and an Afrikaner walk into a bar. That's sort of the theme for tonight. And we're looking very much forward to this. I believe it will be a wonderful event, and we've been preparing quite some time for this. I've been working on my speech for the last few days. It's just about right now, so I just need to go through it.
And they say they're selling a lot of tickets.
Yes, I have heard actually a few weeks ago that they had to move to a bigger venue. I don't know how many people are going to be there. It's close to the Rockefeller Center, so it's an exciting area also in Manhattan. And we are very, very happy and very excited about that. And then I would add, let me just repeat again that we did a discussion on Ernst van Zyl's channel, which there's a link in the description, which went more into the detail of the NatCon conference and what we observed there. So I would encourage you to go and watch that. And we also recorded a podcast that will be published, I believe, tomorrow. Today is in 2 days. It will be published. Ernst and I recorded a podcast. If you haven't seen yet, we launched a new podcast called the Pioneer Podcast, which is in English because it's aimed at speaking with our friends abroad about the work that we are doing along the theme that we are discussing in this video. So if you haven't signed up, please go and sign up to the Pioneer Podcast. There was the last episode was with Colonel Chris Wyatt, who's a military veteran in America, and we spoke with him about the Trump assassination attempt and his observations and remarks on that. And then there's an upcoming interview which I recorded with David Azerrad from Hillsdale in Washington, which was a fascinating conversation about the ideological battle within the US and how could we describe that. It was along the theme of identity and ideology. So I'm very much looking forward to publishing that. And then this afternoon, after this video, we are heading into Manhattan to record an episode with Gavin Wax, who's the president of the New York Young Republicans here in New York. And the New York chapter is the biggest and best organized chapter of the Young Republicans. So we will be talking about the nature of the battle or the struggle in New York and why this is so important. And now remember, just one remark about New York. Most of you would know that New York is a blue state. They almost always vote Democrat. But just in the last election, there were still more than 3 million people in New York who voted Republican. So it's not one big left-wing state necessarily. There are a lot of people who are very sympathetic. And we've seen it in New York the last few days with the different groups and people we have spoken with.
And then also just a final update from this week specifically, or the past few days, is we were also invited to an event, a launch event by IM 1776. It's a publication here in the United States. They had a launch event for their latest issue, their Futurism issue. They're a magazine, and I've written 2 pieces on what Afrikaners are doing in their publication, their online publication. The one piece was called "Time to Dig Trenches," and the other piece was titled "The Reorganization of the South African, the Reintegration of the South African Order." And we met the entire editorial group there, everyone behind that great publication, Benjamin Braddock, Benjamin Roberts, Mark Granza, Lafayette Lee, Daniel Miller, and then many other people as well. It was a fantastic networking event, so we were very fortunate to be able to attend, and were invited to attend. Like Aaron said, on my channel, the Conscious Caracal channel, there is another stream that we did last week, or about just over a week ago, where we gave more specifics about NatCon and talked about some of the people that we met and what we talked to them about. And then also Aaron's talked about the new podcast that he's launched. That is, as he said, going to be in English, but there's a lot of Afrikaans content as well out there. You can go to Politiek, our news analysis channel here on YouTube, or on any podcast platform, and then also the In Alle Erns YouTube channel, which is also my Afrikaans channel. I make my Afrikaans content. That's also here on YouTube. And I will be doing some videos there also, updating you on some of our experiences here in the US in Afrikaans, if you can patiently wait, if you want rather hear in Afrikaans than English.
Yeah, I saw another super chat from Graham. Thank you very much for that. $10. Are there social scientists at academia doing research? A few journal articles and scholarly journals would bring you a much higher level of attention from serious people. That's a very good remark. And I can say, what I can say for now is firstly that it's really buzzing at academia. The way Sideline Opinions says that he hopes that it will be buzzing tonight at the event we're going to. But academia is involved and busy with a whole list of very exciting things. And one of it that I can say is that there's conversations about starting their own journal or something to that effect. I don't want to say too much about this now because it's still being planned, but what I will do on this channel is to get someone from academia on to talk about that. But in terms of the suggestion, that's a very important suggestion, is to write more journal articles, and of course that could be academic articles, which is very important, and also more for international publications that are not necessarily academic publications, but serious publications. That are taken seriously by people, and we have started doing this. Ernst has been doing this for some time. I've only recently started publishing more internationally, but it is certainly something that we will focus much more in the future. And we've seen that where some of the articles that Ernst has written and published, we have met people in Washington and New York who have said, "Oh yes, I've read that article that you wrote, and it was very good, and it made me think about this," and so forth. So yes, that's a very important point, and it's something that certainly that we are working at or working on, and we will be talking about that on this channel in the future. All right, thank you very much for those of you who tuned in. It was great to speak with you. We are really looking forward to, firstly, to tonight's event, but then also to going back to South Africa and seeing you guys back home. So next time we do a stream like this, it will probably be from Pretoria. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.